Well, I'm not a huge fan of long-range weather forecasts when it comes to Lanzarote. We are a tiny little island in a huge ocean right next door to a massive landmass, the Sahara Desert. And I think all of those things combine to make weather forecasting here really quite difficult. The reality is I only ever trust forecasts for the next 3 to 5 days as a maximum. Having said all of that, the EU have a new long-range weather forecasting system called Copernicus, and this uses a satellite and some very clever algorithms that predict weather for European countries for up to a month ahead. And they've just released their prediction for March for the Canary Islands. And what they're saying is that temperatures will be above average. Well, that's probably a given these days, and that we will have no rain in the Canaries. The latter is probably great news if you're a tourist visiting here. Not such good news for islanders like me, because the drought that's been going on for 2 to 3 years now is starting to cause real issues with anyone trying to grow grapes for wine or food to eat. I mean, for example, we planted our onions in our vegetable patch a couple of weeks ago, and the soil, as soon as you go down more than the first couple of inches, is so dry it's almost like dust. But anyway, that's the prediction. In terms of the weather this week, it's been all about the wind and waves. We've had some really big gusts of wind, up to 80 kilometers an hour, and poor little La Graciosa was actually cut off from Lanzarote on Wednesday this week, when the ferries had to stop because the waves there were so big. But I think the weekend everything's supposed to be settling down and should be better for us going forward. Good news that gross domestic product, GDP, in the Canaries grew last year in 2023 by 3.9%. And that's ahead of Spain as a whole, which grew at 2.5%. But good news specifically for the Canaries, but also Spain in general, is that our economy is growing. And I know some countries are on the brink of recession within Europe, but we're able to continue growing here in the Canaries and across Spain. Any of you who've driven in the north of the island will no doubt have seen the fabulous wind toy, which was designed by Cesar Manrique, and it sits on the Arrieta roundabout, the roundabout where you can turn right and go down to Playa La Garita, or go straight on towards the Jamios del Agua and Cueva de los Verdes. That wind toy has disappeared, so it's not there at the moment. It's been taken down for a full refurbishment. I really miss it already. I've just got so used to looking at it as I go to and from home in Aria, and it gives me an instant visual representation of what direction the wind is blowing in and how strong it is. And it's just such a clever piece of design. So you've got an arrow which gives you the wind direction, and there are the sort of upright bits, and however far back they are shows how strong the wind is. What I didn't realise, and this came out in the press release about the refurbishment, is that the thing that articulates it all is an old Cabildo truck axle. So Manrique, as if we didn't already know it, was well ahead of the recycling curve when he built that in the early 1990s. Work inspectors have been across the islands calling into businesses to make sure that all the staff are being paid properly, that they have proper contracts, and all of those kind of things. And this is something the work inspection team do every few years on the islands. And fortunately, it's getting less and less now that people don't have proper contracts. Having said that, they visited 942 businesses across the Canaries, and they found 300 people working in the incorrect conditions. And they were those businesses, 210 businesses, 300 people. Those 210 businesses were fined a total of €800,000. I think it's a good thing. I'm not a big fan of people who either don't give their staff contracts or give them very low contracts so they don't have to pay much social security or tax, and then make up the rest in cash. And this really came home to roost during the pandemic, when Inevitably, when the government support for people during the pandemic came out, it was based on what the government knew they were earning. So for the people who didn't have a contract, there was nothing available. For the people who had a €300 a month contract, they would get €300 a month because that's what on paper they were earning beforehand. And unless their employer decided to top that salary up with their usual cash payment, which in many cases they couldn't afford to do, those employees were really left in the lurch. So I'm quite happy about work inspectors being out and about. It's been confirmed that the campsite at Papagayo will be open over Easter, and the dates are the 22nd to the 31st of March. Pitches range in price from €6 to €11 a night, depending on what facilities you've got and what size the pitch is, because they've got them for tents and they've got them for, you know, larger motorhomes and stuff like that. I'm very frustrated by this. It's the only legal campsite on the island, and I just don't understand why it isn't open all year round. The reality is, because it's going to open for a week over Easter, or is it? Yep, it is a week. 9 days over Easter. Then it's going to close, and apparently it will open in June for the summer and then close again in October. Why? I cannot think of a single reason why that campsite isn't open all year round. It certainly isn't the weather. Frustratingly, the same politicians who tell us it's only going to open in the summer are the ones who complain about all of the motorhomes we have on the island at the moment who are wild camping. And they're wild camping in car parks, on cliff tops around the place, and it's because they've got nowhere to go. So for goodness sake, Cabildo, if you ever start watching these videos, please keep the Papagayo campsite open all year round. And you'll make money out of it. It's a good income earner for the island. Just a quick reminder that if you've got any questions which we're not covering in this weekly video news, just put a comment down below, ask it. I read all of the comments, and if I know the answer, I'll let you know. If I don't, I'll probably find out and let you know the answer to your burning question. I like the sound of the new Canary Islands tourism promotion which is going on. The title is El Secreto está en el interior, which means the secret is inside. And the idea behind this is to attract more sustainable, eco-friendly tourism to the islands. So they're looking for people who are interested in finding out the secret parts of the Canaries, perhaps moving away from the resorts and spending time in towns like Aria and Tinajo and San Bartolome and so on, to learn the real culture of the Canaries and see Canarian people doing everyday things, rather than just where the nearest beach is and the nearest bar with the cheapest beer. One of the areas of tourism that the island has really thrived on over the last 10 to 15 years is sports tourism. And I've mentioned it before, I don't remember ever seeing so many sports people on the island as we have at the moment. Cyclists are everywhere, runners are out and about all the time. Just talking about cyclists for a minute, I'm ashamed to say that too many are behaving really irresponsibly on the island at the moment. So if you are a cyclist and you're on Lanzarote, please have some consideration for car drivers. I'm a cyclist, so I've done many thousands of kilometers on my bike on the road here. So I'm not coming at you as somebody who hates cyclists. I'm coming at you as somebody who really struggled yesterday, for example, to drive down the road from the White Gates at Costa Teguise into town because there were two really large groups riding 3 abreast, and that is just inconsiderate. It means that as a car driver, in order to overtake the group, which was travelling pretty slowly, I had to get both of my wheels across a solid white line, and I basically had to speed in order to safely get past this large group of bikes. So please have a think about the size of the groups you've got. But while we're talking about sports, the next big sporting event coming up on the island is the Volcano Triathlon, which is next month, and it's just one of the best events. It is the oldest triathlon event in all of Spain. It first ran in 1984, which means this is the 40th edition of it. And it's Olympic distance, so it's relatively short and compact in terms of how far the bikes go out. But if you're on the island for it, get down and watch it, because it's a really good day out and a really good atmosphere. And staying with sport for a minute, the really big news this week is that the wine run is back. The wine run, I think, is one of the very best events on the island, because it combines two things that Lanzarote is synonymous with. It's sport and gastronomy. And basically you can run 23 kilometers or 12 kilometers, or you can walk 12 kilometers through the wine region. If you're one of the walkers, you'll get wine tastings at the various bodegas and little pieces of food to eat while you're doing it. But when you get to the end, there's a fantastic party, and it's a gastronomy event, one of those gastronomy events where you buy €1 tickets and you can try the food from some of the best restaurants on the island and all of the island's wine for, you know, a couple of euros a pop. Brilliant event, 16th of June. If you're here, make sure you get down there, and better still, enter. Julie and I are both doing it, so we will see you there. So before we do the final piece of news this week, just a request again: if you're enjoying these videos, please hit the subscribe and notification buttons so that you see it every week when we post it on a Saturday morning for you. We're trying very hard to grow our YouTube watchership to a point where it matches our Lanzarote information readership. So we'd be really, really grateful for likes, comments, all the usual stuff, but most importantly, please subscribe so you don't miss future editions of this. Okay, and the final news is all about Raquel Welch, and Raquel Welch's bikini more specifically. The actress died at the age of 82 a year ago. As you probably know, she came to stardom via a movie called 1 Million Years BC, where she spent most of her time wearing a fairly skimpy bikini. And that was filmed here in Lanzarote, and the film poster, which became one of the fastest selling film posters of all time, showed her wearing this bikini with the mountains of Timanfaya in the background. So it's a really iconic piece of clothing, and her family are auctioning off loads of her stuff, including cars and things like that. But most importantly, they are auctioning off the bikini. I kind of have a fond hope that the Cabildo here will go and buy it and put it in a museum somewhere here on the island, but I suspect they won't be able to stretch to whatever that's going to go for. But anyway, I think it's an interesting story, interesting piece of news that does connect back to Lanzarote, albeit obliquely. Thanks for watching, have a great weekend, and bye for now.